I stand in the shade of trees that I did not plant. I walk down roads that I did not pave. And I drink from wells that I did not drill. And I have the opportunity to water those trees, maintain those paths, and to build up those wells. My journey to get to the Ms. Foundation has been anything but a straight line. In fact, it's been a lot of left turns and right turns and ups and downs. My name is Teresa Younger. I'm the president and CEO of the Ms. Foundation for Women. I actually started doing work around social justice issues when I was a Girl Scout, and I really loved it. About 4.5 years ago, I ended up here at the Ms. Foundation for Women.
Join me in welcoming our own president and CEO, Teresa Younger.
Building on the legacy, amplifying women's voices, to working for gender equity, to supporting movement building throughout the United States, and really challenging and asking questions about how do we build a more just and equitable world.
The vision of the organization is on the wall. We believe in a safe and strong world where power and possibility are not limited.
These founding mothers, Gloria and Marlo and Letty and Pat, came together to create this foundation based on the idea that women have the power to solve the most pressing issues we face.
Women in the 70s had a high level of consciousness raising. Marlo Thomas, Gloria Steinem, Letty Pogerman, Pat Carbine thought to themselves, what can we do to help lift up other women's stories? And that has been part of the legacy of the Ms. Foundation for 45 years. It is, how do we validate and lift up those voices? How do we ensure that they get heard in places they otherwise wouldn't get heard? And it's not just our voice, but it's the voice of those who people are not paying attention to.
God bless the state of Connecticut, God bless the United States of America, and we will be strong.
And when we know that we can lift their voices up, we can tell their stories, they can speak their truths, those truths can inform the policies that need to change the lives of all of us. Because up until that day, it had only been white men who were trying to come up with any solution for anything.
You built a movement, and America is just beginning to feel its power.
Because we honestly believe that the day that all genders, men and women and those gender non-conforming, can fully live your full lives, then we will all be able to live our full lives.
We're about destructing the narrative that has been out there traditionally about what a feminist looks like and what is happening in the feminist community, and what feminism as a value is truly about.
I'm coming out for a fight, because somebody's got to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, and I should be so fortunate to be that person. We all should be that person. Be the kind of woman that when your feet hit the ground in the morning, the devil says, oh shit, she's up.
We are just getting started.
The pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction for women. Saying yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no. Speak your truth. Redefining our roles as women. It's those little changes that really ripple out and make a bigger difference. So yeah, there is such a beautiful movement happening right now on a global level. I think both with the divine feminine and the divine masculine, people really kind of getting into right relationship with their own power and how to use it in a peaceful way to create change. My name is Holly, and I'm the spa director here at Vasu Studio. And I'm Natalie, I'm the yoga director at Vasu Studio, and yes, we're twins. I'm a holistic esthetician and massage therapist and herbalist. I run the yoga team here and help design the schedule and figure out what our students want and what their needs are. I'm responsible for all the creatrix design behind our products that we make and all the treatments that happen in our spa. And another passion of mine is community outreach, so figuring out how we can take Vasu as a studio within 4 walls and really impact Hartford. I think sometimes people get really overwhelmed when they take a bird's eye view of all the things that need to happen to create change in this world, and they kind of just throw their hands up and they're like, I can't make a difference, so what's the point? Why try? And so really one of our goals here with Vasu is to really remind people that the work starts on the ground, and then it works its way up and really makes the positive impact. And it really starts with yourself. It starts with the conversation that you have in between, your own mind throughout the day. It starts with the interactions you have with your neighbor and how you're going to support them. And it's those little changes that really ripple out and make a bigger difference. And also, we're useless to everybody around us if we're not taking care of ourselves and really recharging our batteries. So that's really one of our mantras, is live in your light. Means walk out into the world empowered and passionate and rested and motivated, and that's really where the change happens, is when we're really shining. There was a time where the world was a very matriarchal place and women were really revered and respected. And the pendulum kind of swung into the opposite direction with the rise of patriarchy. And now I think it's starting to come back into the other direction, where everybody's starting to realize that we need women, we need strong, open, free women that are not afraid to speak their voice and not afraid to create and to love. Somewhere along the line, women got buttoned up and tucked in and kind of put into these safe little boxes and roles. And that is not where our power lives. Our power lives in our heart, it lives in our intuition, it lives in our knowing and our wisdom. And I think that if women can learn to kind of rewild and learn to speak their truth and take up space, make a little noise, and love unconditionally, that not only would their partners and families be affected, but their businesses would be affected, and the world would just kind of come to life a little bit more with more color and more nurturing and more compassion. And I think that's kind of the key. That's the key to what's really missing in the world. So instilling that sense of sisterhood and a tribal community is a huge part of what we're all about. And we realized as we stepped into adulthood that oftentimes in our culture, especially as women, we can really isolate ourselves. And it truly does take a village. It truly does take a tribe. We can't do things on our own. We weren't meant to do things on our own. Just really rebuilding what it means to have a community and to support each other. Redefining sisterhood, what it means to truly support one another and empower one another and encourage one another, instead of looking at someone else shining as a threat to one's own light. Sitting in circle and ritual and ceremony and sharing and witnessing and being vulnerable is all part of that. And creating a container of trust and a space where you can completely be yourself. And the more you're exposed to that in a safe and sacred environment with sisters, the more you can do that anywhere, any day, anytime. One of our favorite quotes is, "The sky would be awfully dark with only one bright star." So really, supporting women to be their best selves and to support them through that process so we can all change the world. Yeah.
Generally, people don't remember the people that do good, but they remember the people who do bad. If you can help everybody to do good and give a good perception of women, then I think it makes the next people coming on, it makes it a little easier for them. My career started back in 1982. I knew one of the firefighters in Stratford, and kind of joking I said, "So when are you taking applications?" And he goes, "We're currently taking applications." He said, "Get in my car," and we went down to headquarters, and I got an application to be a firefighter, something I had never dreamed of doing. I was the first woman career firefighter in the state of Connecticut. I'm Ellen Murray, and I am the Borough of Naugatuck Fire Chief. It was challenging. The guys were a lot older than we were. There were different reactions to us. Some people took us right in and under their wings, and other people were apprehensive. I'll tell you where my biggest problem was wives. You know, we were there for not the right reasons, according to them. That kind of surprised me, because I would think they would be more concerned if I could pull their husband out of a fire than if I was going to sleep with them. The guys really accepted me, which I was very happy about. One of the biggest compliments I got was one of the really old timers one day just put his arm around me and said, "You can come in a fire with me anytime." I prefer firefighter. I don't get offended if somebody calls me a fireman. I don't like it when someone says fireman and Ellen. Don't point me out like that. I think it's a compliment to be, "Hey guys." It's kind of in how it's said, not what is said. Firefighter works. I was going to probably go into a non-traditional women's field anyway. So when the fire department came up, it became such a challenge to me that I put everything into it. When I first came on, the gear didn't fit you well. The gloves were big, the boots were made for men, the gear was huge on you. So besides trying to do your job, you're always pulling up your pants, and the gloves were like 2 inches too big. It was very difficult to do some of your skills with the clothing. And since then, I think they realized that the number of women in the profession, and they tailored our gear to fit women now. We have one firefighter. She was perfect to come onto the job. She's tough, she takes it, she dishes it out. She's like the perfect person to represent females, so that when there more of them come, she's made a good path for them. I'd take 10 Katies if I could. She's wonderful.
I'm Katie Judson. I'm a firefighter for the Naugatuck Fire Department. People in the civilian world don't understand what you do necessarily. When I tell people I'm a firefighter, they're like, "Oh, so you're the secretary of the fire department?" No, I'm not. Like, I actually am a firefighter.
People would ask me, "What do you do?" You know, just if you're out somewhere, I go, "I'm a firefighter." They go, "Well, what do you do?" I go, "Everything that the guys do." "Do you drive the trucks?" I'm like, "Yeah, I drive the trucks." "You go in the buildings?" "Yeah, I go in the buildings." You know, they can't correlate us doing everything that the men do.
I think for me, being in this line of work, the biggest challenge is the social aspect of it. You know, you're still kind of on the periphery of the guys. They go out for beers, or they go out and they do things together, and you're never really invited. Quite honestly, it can be lonely at times. It's honoring to work with Chief Murray. It's nice to be able to have at least someone who's been in the same position that I am. If I'm having a rough day, I can always bounce things off of her. She's been there, so it's nice to have like just a sense of security that someone knows how I feel when it's not the best day in the world.
It's so corny, and everybody says it, but your life does depend on the person standing next to you. It truly does.
I think the advice that I would have is not to ever give up. You know, we're all here for the same reason. It's to help people, and it's to set those precedents for generations to come.
My hope is that someday we won't even have these conversations, that it won't be an oddity to see a woman in a non-traditional role, that we won't have to talk about women being treated properly, we won't have to talk about them breaking barriers. That's just going to be a common ground, that all women can do anything and nobody thinks twice about it.
This huge thing in my life happened when my mother died, and I became aware of wanting to understand myself better. And I think that is really at the heart of much of this transition that we're seeing in people, is wanting to understand your own energy. My name is Aja Echeverria. I'm a healing artist. I have a business called Age into Beauty, for which I make healing self-care products.
My name is Toni Johnson, and I'm a creative. I'm a professional singer who had a shift and evolved basically into doing everything in service of others. I was creating the jewelry that I create as early as 2005, and then I noticed after a pretty serious car wreck that I survived that there were things happening, the things you can't see. the things you can't explain. As a singer, that happens when you sing, you affect your audience. So I noticed that the same type of reaction was happening with the clients that were purchasing my pieces. So I started to look upon this idea of alternative medicine, alternative healing, the healing arts, which brought me into realizing like everyone is wanting healing. And then crossing paths with Aja, later in this journey, I realized she was one of the first people I'd met who semi-mirrored, if not totally mirrored, what I was doing.
It is a mirror, very much.
Totally. The weekend of her birthday, came to Hartford, I got here, I fell in love. I fell in love with Aja, I fell in love with Hartford, and I met my soul family. I met these people who were creatives, who supported one another. I'm about to be drawn to tears. Just go out on blind faith and still every day wake up excited and filled with gratitude to be here.
Tony and I talk about it often, is this lifting of the veil, what would be considered feminine rising. It baffles me that it's 2018 and we are just at the precipice of acknowledging that we all come from a womb. And how powerful that it is the source of creation, that it is something to acknowledge and honor. It's a huge aspect of, I think, what you're seeing happening right now. I think when people see, if we're at a market and our things are on display, they walk up and they're like, oh, something resonates.
Yeah, it definitely is, I would say, bridging gaps in cultural notions. You made me think about the notion of ally, true allies, and trying to better our society by genuinely having concern and care for one another. So it's a beautiful thing when we can turn the mirror on ourselves and see how can I be accountable. There is a unity that has to form for us to get further in our culture.
I've always known since I was young, always connecting to and finding beauty in the women who were 60 and older and were confident, who were also willing and able to share a little nugget of wisdom, a bit of compassion and connection. I came to understand that we get better as we get older. It is not a thing to shun away from.
We're aging gracefully, aging into beauty. It's such a beautiful journey.
What I've learned in my life is I can live on very little. And that for teaching, if I have a stick in the sand, I can still teach. I think my interest in girls' education stems from my own experience. Until about the age of 12, I was a chatty, loud, gregarious child. And then suddenly, I found myself shutting down in terms of voice. And in truth, I think it's taken me decades beyond that to recover voice. What I've realized is because of developmental changes, boys at the age of 12 or 13 began to sort of push outward, which is a natural impulse. And girls have learned that they should pull back to make way for that pushing outward. And so I'm interested in imagining a world in which girls' voices don't get shut down. The key will be whether girls realize their intrinsic capacity. My name is Meera Viswanathan, and I'm the head of the Ethel Walker School in Simsbury, Connecticut. To be at this school now, to think about raising a generation of girls who come to expect equal access and to understand that it is their right not to feel impeded is really important to me. More than any time since the 1970s, I feel that we're at a watershed moment for women and women's social identities. Not simply that notion that ethically or philosophically women deserve a place in the sun, but much more pragmatically, empowered women contribute to everyone's well-being. The hashtag #MeToo movement, Time's Up. I welcome these movements because I think they're going to let some light and air into these previously closeted areas in which women purportedly had equal opportunity, but not really. Education is the most profound social instrument that exists. To think that I'm ahead of school is extraordinarily humbling. All those young faces are watching me, and that everything I do is noted, and therefore I have to be much better than I really am, so I don't disappoint them. And my goal is to be as worthy of it as I possibly can be. The Marines have a slogan, "No Marine left behind." I feel the same way about girls and women. And so we will leave no girl left behind in teaching those qualities: grit, resilience, the confidence that you will make it.
Things are shifting, and they're shifting rapidly. People don't feel represented. But the last thing we need right now is quiet women. We need loud, passionate, inspired women who are fighting for causes that matter to them, because that's where the change happens. I've always been an advocate, so I've always been that person that speaks up even when your voice shakes. There's so much strength right now when women are coming together. So much of my campaign is because of other women. They're coming to me and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, it's so brave what you're doing." And I'm like, join me. I'm Amanda Webster. I live in Granby, Connecticut, and I'm looking to better advocate for our town at the state level. So that's why I'm running for the Connecticut House of Representatives in the 62nd District. I hired the president of UConn Dems because she's a strong woman, and it was really important to me when I hired a campaign manager that it was another young woman. So making sure that we're raising the next generation, I think that's how we do it.
I'm Megan Handow. I'm the campaign manager for Amanda Webster. This year, I knew it was a really, really important year for women running for office. So I wasn't sure how I could get involved or what I could do, but I really wanted to work for a woman running for office. My friends from school said, "I know this woman, Amanda Webster, send her an email if you're interested in her campaign." I saw all of her stances that I was also very in support of. And she got back to me very quickly, and then I was working on her campaign.
We're all running for office, but we're really changing the narrative of what that means. We're working together, we're banded together. The Time magazine cover was so cool. And they had just asked for a photo, they had asked for some information. So I'm thinking somewhere in Time magazine at one point you're gonna be able to use a microscope and see my face. And someone was like, "Amanda, is that you?" And then that Monday I walked out to just get the mail and it was, my face was in my mailbox. My heart stopped and it was incredible to be on it with the next generation of women leaders that are out there like fighting a really strong fight. It means so much to be a part of that. I put effort into what I believed in, against really big odds and against a lot of adversity that was really difficult, especially in the final weeks. It's just walking the walk. If you want to talk about empowering women, put them in charge of your campaign. We were this small group of people where it's just my husband and I in the beginning, and we had to convince people to win the Democratic nomination, and then we had to convince people to be on the ballot in the end. I remember I saw Nancy Pelosi voting for Speaker the other day, and she said, "I eat nails for breakfast." And I remember that resonating with me so much more than I thought anything had recently. We knocked doors every single day, over 10,000. We made over, I don't remember what it ended up being, like 5,000 phone calls. You know, we did so much work, and we lost. This is hard. And I said it kind of earlier, and I liked it. The rain, and it was dark, and it was cold. And we were at every polling place. And you take the challenge because it's worth it. And we had to start from zero. And we saw some of the highest voter turnout, and it was because we activated people that finally felt if they showed up, they'd be listened to. And we have to keep it going, and we will keep it going. And this is not the speech I wanted to give, but this is the speech that needs to be heard. I thank you. It would not have been the same campaign if I didn't follow through and have women at the helms of every aspect of my campaign. And those women are doing great, actually. Megan, who is my first campaign manager, now works for the recently elected Jahana Hayes, her campaign office in DC. My campaign manager, Stephanie, that closed the campaign really strong with me, now works for the Connecticut House of Representatives. Having that resume line helped them get there. So I think it's extremely exciting. And one of the wins that our campaign has is that we now have elevated 2 women that worked on this campaign into offices bigger than this. And I think that's just what we need to start doing, is saying, yes, it's really important that we bring women into this and that we make them a part of it, then stop talking about it and just make them a part of it.
I think it's really important that we continue to have women candidates and women in office, so that in the future, when someone's like me and they're in their high school classroom, that you have someone who you can look to and say, oh, well, they did it. And if I can act like them and be like them, then I can do it too.
I think a woman's work is anything that a woman decides to work for when she has every opportunity afforded to her that a man does in this country. So a woman's work can be in the kitchen and baking cookies for her children if that's what brings her joy and that's what's best for her family. What's best for her to do with her time and what's best for her children even if she's not with them. You know, a woman's work is all-encompassing and it varies for every single person. And so our work as women is to look at each other and lift up one another and lift up women in whatever they decide their work is for themselves.